The little white flower of showbiz was in a garden variety show and ignored the no-picking sign hanging in my yard. Stiffly crossed the fence and ate my grafted tomatoes that I had been working on for a couple years. After the incident, she cried and pretended to be pathetic. And the show's crew even directed the fans of the little white flower to call me out for making a big deal out of it. It wasn't until the whole internet blew up when I used my own academicians official account to AIT her. The moment I heard the alarm go off, I immediately shut down my computer and walked outside the courtyard. What entered was a bustling crowd that was surrounding my grow site. The fence, which was originally standing properly, was now violently cut off in the middle. The good piece of forest. The fruit on the trees was thrown around by people east one west one. Several cameras were carried by big and strong men, shooting 360 at a delicate little girl. She looked at the tender young tomato fruits in her hands with a confused expression and sighed. These fruits are so small. They all look sour. Aren't there any bigger ones? She smiles at the camera with a bit of anguish. Dimples on the side of her mouth. I recognized her as Cindy, the actress who had become a big star in a sweet drama. But I didn't know anything about the entertainment industry. But when I was in class, there were often students who secretly watched her dramas. They said that Cindy is a long-lost 5-0-year-old beauty in the entertainment industry. Beautiful and kind-hearted. And knows how to be polite. Looking at the experimental seedling in her hand, which has the effect of delaying the onset of cancer. Thinking of the years of effort I spent to learn that the soil of this place is the most suitable for the survival of small tomatoes. Carrying a suitcase. Night and day in this yellow village. Constantly doing experiments. Specimens. Record data. It was hard to get a single seedling. I took a deep breath for 2 seconds. Afraid I would pout over. Can't you see the sign I put up? No picking. My tone was heavy. Cindy visibly froze for 2 seconds. She had always been pampered and held in high regard. And her eyes immediately reddened. She pouted her lips and huffed. Aren't you just a tomato? You're just a yard keeper. How dare you scold me like that? Cindy swept her head down to look at the old, dusty clothes I was wearing and retorted loudly. The staff around her immediately noticed this, running over to repel me. The director with a loudspeaker said, "This is a filming site. Idle people are not allowed to enter." I was about to laugh in anger, rummaging through someone else's house, making a mess, and driving the owner away. What kind of reasoning is that? When I was arguing with the director, Cindy was already coaxed to take a rest on the other side of the room. 2 male celebrities came over. A baby-faced man was carrying a bamboo basket containing some wild vegetables. The other man with a cold brow held nothing in his hand. He had the assistant next to him holding a heavy black umbrella for himself. When he looked at me, he subconsciously frowned. He saw that I wasn't very old. So I guess he thought I was a star-crossed fan. Are you a private fan? There really are you guys everywhere. It's disgusting to look at. As the words fell, the doll face next to me was rounding up. Film Master Chen. Isn't there some kind of misunderstanding? She doesn't look like she's even an adult yet. Shadow Emperor Chen snorted coldly and noticed Cindy in the shade in the distance. He walked straight over there. The doll face popped up next to me. Little sister. Is this your home? I was too distraught to salvage the snap tomato seedlings to bother with him. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Dollface squatted down to help me organize together. After learning that the crew had broken into my house, he looked apologetic. Dollface told me that this was an idyllic reality show. They, as invited guests, were responsible for collecting food that could be eaten in the village and dividing it into 2 groups for a PK match. The loser was responsible for cooking. Cindy was their teammate and agreed to work together, only to run away as soon as the director said start. Dollface apologized sincerely and even made an appointment to compensate me privately for my loss. Seeing that the tomato seedlings still have the possibility of healing, but the results will have to be delayed for a year or 2. I was in a slightly better mood. Next to the dollface who was diligently digging. His white shirt was sticky with dirt and his delicate makeup was wet with sweat. Not only is there no star's pettiness, But there is also an air of agricultural student purity. See me looking at him. Dollface wiped the sweat. It's okay. I'm idle just to help you get these. Anyway, I'm not red. The director will not find me. I looked at him a lot more favorably. Don't eat the wild vegetables in your basket together. This weed that resembles okra is called mandrake. And it's poisonous, he said with a fearful face. He threw the wild vegetables away with a look of hindsight. Thank you. I thought it was eaten okra. Almost went to the hospital. 3 When the program team left, a cold-faced staff member came over. He is the assistant beside Cindy. The expressionless face dumped me $2,000 in cash. Consider it compensation. It can buy dozens of pounds of your broken tomatoes. Don't talk nonsense on the program team, or you'll be waiting for a lawyer's letter. I thought of what Dollface had just popularized for me. Be careful of Cindy. Her fans are crazy. There is a vegetarian because of scolded Cindy acting cannot. Will be their net violence to suicide. You know that man just now, right? His family is very powerful. But he's just one of Cindy's suitors. She has the biggest gold master father Max. It is said that when he stomps his foot, the entertainment circle will shake 3 times. I laughed and didn't pick up on the staff. I'll be waiting for your lawyer's letter. For waiting for everyone to leave. I opened my cell phone and flipped to the family section. I clicked on Max's number. Hey, brother. I want to ask you about someone. There was a beep on the other side of the phone. And it was picked up instantly. A low male voice rang out. With a hint of condescension. Luna. You still know how to call me. Do you know that I've been searching all the nooks and crannies of the country for you? How's your stomach? You haven't been eating on time for the experiment. Have you? I'm telling you. Don't stay up all night. I'm telling you. Don't stay up all night. You're still young. You'll know when you're old. I silently moved my cell phone away from him. Who would have thought that the man on the microphone would be the same as the old lady? It's the cold-faced president in the financial magazines. Dressed in a suit and wearing gold-framed silk glasses. Earlier years. I for scientific research. Fell into the stomach disease problem. My brother specially went to get a nutritionist's license. When he worked at home, he made tens of millions of dollars worth of phone calls while cooking. He also wore a pink lace apron and was full of seriousness as he used an electronic scale to accurately calculate the number of grams of salt to put in. This time I closed my eyes for a couple years to extract the anti-cancer elements in the small tomatoes. There was basically no time to talk except to check in with my brother. I thought I would be able to conduct a clinical trial. But now I have to postpone it. Those patients who were expecting the results of my research would have to wait for another long time. Max and I had been living together for decades. I could clearly hear the fatigue and depression in my tone. When I asked about Cindy, he immediately noticed something was wrong. I heard him ask in a low voice who Cindy, the secretary next to him, was. The next second, my brother asked without moving, You don't like her? I looked at the fruit on the floor that I hadn't had a chance to pick up inside. I don't think much of people who waste food. 5 an hour after I hung up the phone. The cell phone entertainment news pushed me the latest news about Luna Group. I clicked on the tweet I downloaded for my brother. On the hot search. The words of Luna Group removing Cindy as the official announcement of the next season's spokesperson exploded. As a wealthy and generous, changing spokespersons is like changing clothes goose. Endorsement fees have always been exorbitant. Non-red flow do not want. For Cindy, who has not yet caught fire after years of debut, it is considered a top resource. Facing the passers-by who are watching the fun, the bottom of a group of her fans in the crazy output. It's only the official blog bug folded just. A group of black people in the nonsense bark what? Who doesn't know the relationship between Cindy and Luna Group? The luxury family is not a joke. There's even Max. Why don't you take care of it? This is your own sister. How can you be a brother? I was so confused. Fortunately, there are Cindy's diehard fans. It turns out that the day Cindy became the best newcomer, Airborne hot search first. Hot search number 2 is Max using his official account to congratulate his sister for getting what she wanted. Magnificently. He sent out hundreds of red envelopes of over $200 on the platform. Cindy grabbed the biggest $10,000. She sent a thank you, brother. Then heart. Comments like tens of thousands. Because Max didn't name who the sister was. Plus Cindy's comment was pushed to the first one. Many uninformed passersby assumed they were brother and sister. Some asked how come brother and sister have different last names. Brainwashed by diehard fans. Sister and mom's last name. Brother and dad's last name. This is not just reflecting the parents love each other. Must be family harmony. I hold my forehead. My parents do love each other. When my mom gave birth to us. Because it was twins. Almost difficult to deliver. My dad was scared out of his wits. In order for us to be thankful. He let both of them take my mom's last name. Unfortunately. They were later involved in a plane crash. And my brother shielded the grief-stricken me. In a crowd of jackal and tiger relatives. Guarded mom and dad's heart and soul. The company grew to the point where it is today. I am even more careful to take care of me. Can't wait to hang me on the waistband of my pants at all times. Kept me well protected on the internet. To this day. No one knows I'm Max's twin sister. Being the obvious sister controller. My brother had nowhere to vent his pride when I became the youngest professor at the University of A. He wanted to order an oversized red celebratory banner and hang it on the front of the main office in the center of town. I turned it down with a little face. I know from my toes that my brother didn't read the comments. Or maybe he didn't care if he did. In his world, no one else mattered except his beloved dad, mom, and sister. Cindy's fans made a long fuss though. Some people couldn't sit still and went under the official blog to curse. How come the bug hasn't been fixed yet? The staff in charge of Goose operations come out and give thanks. Offended the head sister and still want to have good fruit. Dream on. The next second, the official came out to respond. After this, Luna Group named subsidiary. Involved in the field. Will completely eliminate and Cindy all cooperation. This is great. Begging for a hammer. I giggled and laughed out loud. And my mood was rarely better. 6. The negative impact of the cancelled spokesperson was too great. Cindy's studio immediately released footage of the idyllic variety show. Under the sun. In a fenced yard far from the hustle and bustle of the city. A young girl in a floral dress plays with water by a stream. With the sweet BGM. When Cindy's trademark dimples were revealed, the pop-ups were full of, the social animal is cured. Sweet girl really YYDS. Cindy is having so much fun. I want to go to this place too. In the next second, the cozy picture style turned. It's Cindy holding a green tomato in her hand and confronting a woman with a disfigured face. My face was plastered with a mosaic. Her pant legs were pulled up. All muddy. And her tone was menacing as she was berating her about what she was doing. It just looked like a bad one to be around. In contrast, Cindy had red eyes. Like she was crying from fear. The poor little bunny look. The pop-up fans exploded at once. Who is this rural mom? She has no quality at all. She sees Cindy as a girl and bullies her to death. Right? I'm going to be furious. Cindy is crying so pitifully. Where did the staff go? Get rid of this idiot. I'm watching this with my eyebrows furrowed. This blooper reel pinches and pinches. How she lets people destroy my fence and wreak havoc in my yard is not cut in at all. All the netizens could see was that I was bullying someone else's little girl. Even at the end of the blooper reel, there was a shot of the staff handing me $2,000. This program group is so shitty. Giving her money back. How many pounds of tomatoes can I buy with $2,000? It can't be helped. Cindy is just so kind. Luckily there are mom fans. My cousin lives in a nearby village. Everyone wait for my news. The bottom are chiming in. Waiting for you. Cindy's fans are not vegetarians. The baby is guarded by us. It was a hot mess online. Hanging on the hot search for quite a while. The program team was content to enjoy the heat and added a little more fire. Reposted Cindy's studio blooper video on their account. Tens of millions of views. There was no regard for the fact that I was a vegetarian who had nothing to do with the entertainment industry. I put down my cell phone, sent an email to my own pharmaceutical company, and a professional team arrived from abroad in the afternoon to assess my damages. The cost of drug development is always high. From our D2 clinical to marketing, the money invested in it is less than $1 million. More than $100 million, especially drugs related to anti-cancer. A day later, I got a lawsuit for tens of millions of dollars. The lawyer told me that the lawsuit could start anytime. The director of the program suddenly came to my door. 7 on this day. I had just had the tomato seedling sent back to the lab by a special person. It had a damaged rootstock and couldn't be planted in the soil for a while. I finished packing and was just about to leave the place. The director suddenly and rudely barged right in. Looking at my empty room, he froze for a moment. "Why are you moving out? It's good that I came quickly." The director came over in the sun. His body sweaty. The fat on his face glistening with oil. He reached out for me. I dodged him. I frowned and said, "I'm a clean freak." The director was a bit angry. "What kind of cleanliness fetish does a country bumpkin have? Come with me." He explained a few sentences impatiently. "The last time you and Cindy's program worked quite well. Today you go again. Just keep the same style as before. The more brutal the better." He finished and compared it to 2. "I'll count you 200 a day. Is that good enough for you? You can't even earn this much in a month from farming." "I see." The director felt that the heat of the previous program had been stirred up. So today, he wanted to strike while the iron was hot and called me over to build a persona for Cindy. To set her off as icy clean. It can also abuse a wave of fans and raise attention. I was about to refuse. The director suddenly answered a phone call. "What? Max is coming to our program to look for his sister. This pure countryside. Where is there any sister?" He paused. "You don't mean Cindy, do you? Hurry up and tell someone to go to the airport to pick up Mr. Goo. This is a huge fortune. The ratings of the program will take off." The director's flesh folds on his face were piled up together in a smile, only revealing a pair of obscene squinting eyes. I got goosebumps. I hope he'll be able to smile so happily when he receives the summons from the court. My brother should have watched the video online. He flew straight to me without calling this time. So I guess he was furious. In high school, I once received a love letter from the school bully and got into trouble with the little girls who liked him. Reported to bully me in school. At that time, my brother had just taken over the family business and was busy. I couldn't bear to bother him. Just in time, I received an acceptance notice from a foreign university and was ready to put up with it for a few days. Until my brother saw the bruise on his elbow. With a sullen face and without a word, he gave me medicine. He was gentle and careful, not to hurt me. I apologized softly. "I'm sorry for making you worry." My brother was silent for a long time and suddenly rubbed my head. "You're not wrong. But you have to know that the reason I work so hard is to shelter my own family. If my brother can't even protect you, then all my previous efforts will be in vain." The next day, I went to school and found out that my little Tayokai had transferred to another school. It was rumored that her principal's father had been reported for embezzlement and was taken away that night. Afterward, my brother told me one thing. Have anger is not hair is a turtle king egg. Rather than internal consumption of their own. Rather than crazy others. I thought deeply about it. And relied on this saying to go all the way up the road of life. Brother is estimated to help me out of anger to come. He is the biggest capital in the entertainment industry. It's more than enough to block a programs. Thinking of this, I gave a yeah to the director. 20,000. Not going for a penny less. The director looked pained. But for the sake of his bright future. He gave me the money out of his own pocket. "Okay. I'll go." I accepted it with slight sincerity. After all, After today, this was probably the biggest amount he could shell out in his life. 9. This episode served as a preview of the main movie, and the director intended to do a different kind of live broadcast. Recorded in a small courtyard is a small farmhouse with warm tones, and Cindy with exquisite makeup is squatting on the ground, teasing an Akita dog. The pop-up screen is a piece of the year is quiet. Until I appeared. Cindy's calm demeanor changed. She smiled skinlessly and squeezed out a sentence from between her new teeth. Director, why did you invite the countryside lady over? The director made peace. We had some misunderstandings last time, so it's good that we've solved them. The pop-ups were all over the place. The director is crazy. He's not afraid of being rushed by Cindy's fans. There are also those who are watching. This young lady is very good looking. Waist thin, legs long. Skin color is honey color. Who understand Poke me XB. Fight. Fight. I'll just watch the beautiful sisters fight. The director announced that there will be a visit from a mystery guest later on, and having piqued the audience's curiosity, he retreated to the background. Cindy, as the resident guest of the variety show, was forced to take on the role of tour guide. As she entered the room, she muttered, I don't know if I brought any mud in. It's dirty. When introducing the lounge, Cindy snatched her things and shielded them behind her. This is where we usually rest. I'll put away the fragile items first. Cindy put the tablet and her own mug in the cabinet and locked it away. As if I would defile her things. The dislike in her eyes overflowed. Someone at the pop-up thought she was being redundant. Immediately someone retorted. That Swarovski water cup is tens of thousands of dollars. Can she afford to lose it by farming? Cindy's fans kept whining. The next second, fireworks exploded in the sky. Special effects with $100,000 turned into shooting stars. Fleeting, but released several in succession. It didn't stop until the fans' pop-ups were covered. A pop-up sent out by the airborne Big Brother, who had instantly risen to the #1 spot in the live broadcast room. Shone with golden light, revealing the air of a tycoon. Max's slender fingertips bounced on the keyboard. It's just a tens of thousands of dollars of gadgets. She doesn't put it in her eyes yet. 10 after half an hour or so. Dollface and Shadow Chen also came over. They got out of the nanny car. And Movie Master Chen frowned at me, probably not remembering who I was. He just walked past me inferently. Wait. Is it convenient to say a few words? I politely took a few steps forward. But Shadow Emperor Chen sidestepped in disgust as if he had seen some flooding beast. Are you the one who had a private life last time? Don't touch my clothes. They're dirty. The corner of my mouth twitched. The two of them, him and Cindy, were a match made in heaven. The quality needs to be improved. Dollface was surprised. Little sister, why are you here? I smiled. Good morning. Mr. Lee. He scratched his head. Good morning. Little Lee sounds quite kind. Mia whispered to me. Why do you care about Kevin? He's young and famous. And he's spoiled by his fans. But his resources are too good for him. I shook my head and didn't dodge the camera. I see that his face is flushed and dark. And although he is thin, he is a bit puffy. He looks like he hasn't rested well for a long time. It's better to have his body checked as soon as possible, as there may be signs of cancer. I study pharmaceutical products and have dabbled in Chinese medicine. After all, human lives are at stake. Even if I don't like Kevin, I still have to warn him. Hear me out. The pop-ups were quiet for a second, then suddenly erupted volcanically. Most of them are cursing me. Who are you cursing to death? Stupid bastard. I think you're the one with a short life. My movie star Chen is doing well. The fortune teller said he's a man of great wealth. You're cancerous just by looking at him. You played God. I looked at the screen and said in a nice voice. I just remind a word of caution. No one can make an empty diagnosis without an exact examination by the hospital. The passerby who could not see past said. People say is also right. Hostility so big, why? Fans crazy. So it's not your life that you have nothing to worry about, is it? I see that she is to come to the shakedown. I think she's just here to cheat. And before that, she touched Cindy and made $2,000. Mia can't stand it anymore. Don't take it too hard. That's how the entertainment industry is. He didn't finish his sentence. The Akita dog lying on the ground suddenly arched its back and growled from outside. I raised my head with a feeling. I only saw the dusty man, wearing a slim-fitting shirt and suit pants. His black hair was let down, soft against his pale forehead. It neutralized his handsome to overly sharp face and looked much softer. Even the knowledgeable director was deterred by his aura, while everyone froze. Max lobbed a glance in my direction. I arched an eyebrow. Wordlessly, I called out, "Brother." 77. Cindy's eyes lit up, and with a girlish stride, she sweetly called out, "Hello, Brother Goo." She stood in a way that just blocked my figure. The camera immediately captured a ray of warmth that Max did not try to retract. Someone on the pop-up screen really said, "Max loves his sister so much." Running all the way from the bustling big city to the remote small countryside. And I don't know how many times he transit on the road. He looks a bit tired. Cindy's endorsement withdrawn, probably because the following people fox and didn't understand what his brother meant. He will surely recover in a few days. We don't need to worry. Cindy wants to help her brother carry something, which he refuses. He lowered his eyes to avoid Cindy's line of sight and said faintly, "No need." But his brother's cold and detached attitude was misinterpreted by fans as, he doesn't want his sister to carry things. So spoiled. The people had all arrived. The director announced the rules, which were still the same old routine of finding ingredients. And then the two groups would each cook their own meals for the guests to taste. Because there are only a handful of stars in the entertainment industry who are good cooks, especially in such an environment. What comes out is often some dark cuisine, allowing the guests to eat their own fruits. The pop-ups laughed uncontrollably at the distorted to blurred faces of the stars, who don't eat the food of the world. It's the East quiz of the netizens. Only Cindy is short, relying on cooking skills that barely fit in her mouth, and is a favorite of the guests when she teams up. She marketed the persona of 1 million people in the entertainment industry and gained a lot of fans. Today the director, in order to please Max, purposely let him choose 2 types of competition: modern kitchen and pure natural earth stove. The director had thought that the big man didn't like the dusty firewood, especially since Cindy was pouting at Max. She blinks her big eyes twice and her tone is soft. "Brother, I don't like cooking with firewood. It's so dirty." My brother raised an eyebrow. I could tell he was disgusted. "Let's use firewood." And he said, turning his head sideways to Cindy, "Don't call me brother. I don't know you well." Cindy doesn't say anything. She puckered her lips and whispered to the fan, "Brother's mad at me." The fan said, "I understand. When my brother is angry, he doesn't like to pay attention to me either. He's a tough guy with a soft heart. The arrogant persona is the best thing to get high on." I didn't quite get it, so I turned my head and asked Mia, "What's a haughty persona?" He looked at the scene in front of him with a scowl on his face, silently blocking my eyes. "Little sister, don't look at these dirty things." 12. When the team was formed, the director hadn't had time to say. My brother instantly moved to my side, and he extended his hand. "Hello, Max." I could tell he was trying hard not to reveal my presence. I gave it a couple of perfunctory shakes. "Hello, Luna." My brother narrowed his eyes in dissatisfaction. "Shunling, why have you lost so much weight? How many times have I begged you to give me your address so that I can send someone over to take care of you?" I choked. Once I accidentally revealed my address. My brother sent a team of professional nutritionists, a housekeeper, 3 housekeeping staff, and 3 large truckloads of furniture and luggage. The village thought they were going to make a movie, and they treated my house like a tourist attraction every day, punching their time. The people in the village thought they were going to make a movie, Half of the plants that I had raised for peace and quiet died that night. After that, I tried not to talk about it. I smiled my trademark smile. Next time. Next time. Next time. With the addition of Mia. There were 3 of us in the group. Cindy was forced to go to another group. Her face sat on the ground, while Kevin laughed quite happily. What's that saying? Lick the dog. Lick the dog until you have nothing left. 13. It happened to rain a few days ago. Many mushrooms sprouted up on the wet ground. Mia excitedly took a bamboo basket and picked them as if he had discovered a new continent. I was afraid that he might have picked some poisonous mushrooms. So I looked at them carefully. Most of them were edible mushrooms. And several of them tasted good. Cindy followed closely behind us and instructed Kevin to pick them. I glanced at a few in the margins. And the more I saw, the worse they looked. This is a gooseberry mushroom. It's poisonous. You can't eat it. I pointed to a white mushroom with a ring, which looked similar to the delicious chanterelle but was highly poisonous. Cindy hesitated, not quite believing me. But for the sake of her life, she threw it away. Her eyes shifted to the yellow, umbrella-like mushroom next to it. I'll take this one. I looked at the strip-capped helmet-hugging umbrella mushroom, which causes abdominal pain, and continued. It's poisonous. Kevin said. Let's pick this one then. I looked at the famous seeing hands green in his hand and fell silent. The pop-up screen was full of ha 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 ha. This is the difference between a non-celebrity and an Euro emperor. Right? An unknown passerby said. This honey skin lady knows quite a lot. I kind of want to powder it. Is it a newly promoted young flower? My brother scanned the pop-ups. The corners of his mouth slightly raised, with a vestigial feeling that this is how it should be. Even proudly felt that the whole world should like his sister. On the way back, Mia was dancing with joy over the fact that she had pushed Cindy and her group head and shoulders above the rest in terms of ingredients. It's always the norm in the entertainment industry to step on the high and praise the low. And Mia, as the little goo who doesn't have a name, is often criticized by Cindy and Kevin. Mia, as a small paste, is often called upon by Cindy and Kevin to do all the dirty work. In the last program, they went to a villager's house to pick manure in order to get ingredients. They pretended in front of the camera and left. Only the naive Mia, who had been working until the night, realized that the show's car had long since driven away in order to take Cindy and the girls back to the hotel. He was left behind in the village for the night. If not for a simple villager who took him in, he might have had to feed the mosquitoes in the wild. Mia said grumpily. Sister, I've had a lot more luck since you came. He rambled on. Sister long, sister short. Seeing his brother's sight was on the verge of spitting fire. Mia scrunched her neck. Why is it cool? I coughed twice. Little Lee student. It's better not to call me sister. I'm still a bit older than you even though I look significantly smaller. I compared a number. Mia's mouth grew and her doggy eyes wide and in shock. I thought I was dull-faced. I didn't realize you were. He hung his head a little lost. I'm the youngest in my family. I always wanted to try being a big brother. His hair was curly. And the more I looked at him, the more he looked like the chihuahua we had at home when I was a kid. I jerked my hand uncontrollably. And it was fluffy. Good boy. Don't cry. Don't cry. My brother looked expressionlessly at the scene in front of him, as if he were playing house and grunted. Childish. He took a few steps forward, realized that I did not go after him, and then slowed down his pace. I thought to myself, who the hell is being childish? Still, I walked up and closed the mic. Brother? Uh-huh. A word coaxed. He stroked my head after a long time, smiled and said, Good boy. 14. When we got back, the two groups started cooking. Cindy put on a delicate apron and walked into the kitchen prepared by the program team with her head held high. The next second, she ran out with a miserable face. Why is there dust everywhere? There are spiders on the wood. No matter how much the director tried to persuade her, Cindy refused to go in. The crew didn't want to offend my brother, so they had no choice but to hold out with her. It was getting closer and closer to the meal time. Netizens are getting impatient. Didn't you say that Cindy's persona is that of an understanding sweet sister? And that she can't go into the countryside to cook a meal for a daily salary of $1 million a day? Cindy did not say that there are spiders. The girl was afraid of these. So I feel sorry for Cindy. Crazy. A monthly salary of 3.0 social animals to feel sorry for the daily salary of millions of stars? When the staff cleaned the kitchen carefully, Cindy finally let go. Meanwhile, our group has long since started cooking. Mia washed the vegetables. My brother burned the fire. And I stir-fried the vegetables, without a care in the world for his tailored clothes. My brother's big hand skillfully snapped off branches and shoved them into the stove. With the match, he lights a scrap of paper and throws it in. The firewood was instantly ignited with a subtle popping sound. The warm light of the fire hit his tall nose. His features so three-dimensional that it seemed like a carefully carved statue. The pop-up screen was rare enough not to get noisy. This stovetop is really super hard to burn. I haven't lit it all at once. Veteran. Absolute veteran. Crazy scream, licking, twisted, crawling, crying. I must talk about one like this in my life. I'm a little curious. My brother has been disheveled and confused in his life. Just not poor. When he was in the most difficult time, he had millions of dollars in his account. A nobleman who never touches the water of the spring sun with his 10 fingers. Basically without the possibility of touching the stove. I've been to even the poorest mountain villages. And this time I was going to show off my skills. The poker was taken over by my brother. With me around. What job do you do? In the face of my skeptical gaze, he said lightly. It's fine if you don't have hands. That said, we suddenly heard the screams of the crowd next door. Pitch black smoke rolled in, and shrill female voices came from inside. In the distance, Cindy ran out with dust on her face, jumping to her feet. Help! There's a fire. Help me. Ooh-hoo-h. She was crying with snot and tears stuck all together. The edge of her skirt brought out a wisp of fire, which almost instantly engulfed Cindy. The staff was also in a mess. As if they were ants on a hot pan. Not knowing what to hustle for. Couldn't even use the fire extinguisher. I took it. Pulled out the safety pin. Held the nozzle. Aimed it at the fire on Cindy's skirt. And pressed down hard on the handle. The fire went out. She sat down on the floor in a state of exhaustion. My brother, unable to look past the messy mess on the set, grabbed the director's loudspeaker and commanded the fire to be extinguished. It wasn't much of a big deal. But it was resolved in a few minutes. I heard from the crew that at first, Cindy was dead set on lighting the stove. She threw the lighted match on the ground in annoyance, touching the dead leaves that ignited at the slightest point. Inevitably, the staff was a bit resentful. Cindy noticed this side, and her vigor returned. She had the strength to stand up. She walked over and threatened the staff with an expressionless face. I'm warning you. Don't talk nonsense on the internet. Your little though job fee. 10 of you can't afford to pay the breach of contract. And you. She looked at me with her chest clasped. Not in the least bit grateful. Stay away from Max. What is his status? What is your status? Toad wants to eat one meat. I was laughing. Was she confused by the fire? Didn't notice the mic was still on me. Her voice was all recorded online. The pop-ups went into a new round of climax. No, why is the picture gone? Did Cindy light the fire yet? The one in front is still lighting the fire. Didn't you hear what I just said? The fire is about to set people on fire. I didn't see that Cindy was actually this kind of person. Dogs know how to return favors. But she's a white-eyed wolf. Also miscellaneous expenses. I so little salary. In Cindy's eyes. Afraid that even the maid is not as good as it. Pink to black. Zhang Hu Si. 15 The program team tittied up a little and went on air. Cindy made one last effort to use a modern kitchen to make mushroom soup. She made cream of mushroom soup. She used the only wild mushroom she had just picked that I recognized as edible. But this mushroom is extremely smelly, especially when mixed with fishy animal cream. The odor is comparable to a gas bomb for those with a sensitive sense of smell. But nay. Her nose was blocked from crying and she couldn't smell it too well. By the time she was in full view of everyone, she was carrying the soup, her face flushed, and handing it to the man with the most sensitive sense of smell in this variety show. It's no exaggeration to say that my brother's pupils instantly quaked. Max, as a tens of billions worth of listed president, has encountered business assassinations, kidnappings, and dozens of times, big and small. This is also the reason why he was reluctant to disclose his sister's identity. But this time in front of him was definitely the most unpretentious one. Max almost wondered if she wasn't some dumbass secretly sent by one of the rival families who looked at him with disdain. He immediately took his own sister away from Cindy. Stay away from this kind of idiot. Don't let it affect you. You have research to do. Netizens are going crazy with laughter. Max's pupil earthquake look was made into an emoticon of "there are always difficult people who want to harm me," which was widely circulated. After hearing my science on mushrooms, Cindy actually pointed the finger at me. "It's all your fault for not making it clear. You must have resented me. That's why you deliberately didn't say anything. Do you think you'll have a chance if you make Max lose interest in me? Let me tell you. Dream on. You're just a rural." Brother couldn't listen anymore. His face sank violently, and underneath his expressionless eyes, a storm was coming. "Cindy, be careful what you say." In a few short words, Cindy stopped talking. She was afraid of Max's eyes, as if she was a mole that could easily be crushed by him. And in fact, it was just a matter of a single word for him to block someone. A fan on the pop-up screen finally couldn't stand it anymore. "My anorexia of stupidity is guilty. How many times has Miss said that this mushroom can't be eaten? The flavor will be very strange." Cindy just won't listen, always thinking that people will harm her. Cindy's persona is weird today. I don't want to watch it anymore. I'd better climb the wall before it's too late. That said, no one thinks how can she be Max's sister with her IQ. It feels like Missy and Max are the family. They look quite similar. By now, Cindy's persona has basically collapsed. The director took into account the power of Kevin's family and hurriedly went off the air. Who knew that just after returning to his studio, he was informed that his position was gone? It had been replaced with another more prestigious person. What right do you have? Now that you're on fire, you've come to pick the peaches. What did you do in the first place? He screamed, and kept sending messages to his circle of friends. The director wanted to find out who was messing with him. Who knew that everyone had tacitly ignored him? Only one senior who had lifted him up secretly revealed a bit of information. "Don't you know? The program was bought out yesterday. The biggest investor changed. Bold Xiao. You've offended someone you shouldn't have. So you're coming down. That's the way this circle is. If you don't have eyes, you won't be able to get along anywhere." 16 I thought Cindy would stop after the live broadcast. Who knows? She sent a small essay that night. I was explicitly and implicitly accused of not only touching her $2,000, but also chasing after the program to go against her. The arson incident was me intentionally leaving the mic on and buying off the staff to set up a trap for her. The mushroom incident was also me blurring the keywords. I intentionally showed off my knowledge and made a fool of her. Throughout the article, black and white are reversed just to describe me as an evil person. It was her naivety and ignorance that got her into my trap. Cindy's fans believe in this. Today's broadcast was on a weekday, and most of the fans were at work or in class. Even if a passerby explains to them, they are more willing to believe in the rightful owner of their fans. Fans saw the photos Cindy posted of her eyes red from crying, and started to comment on the square control of Weibo. "Cindy, we believe in you. Don't let the bad woman ruin your mood. You will always have our presence behind you." There are crazy fans in the comments section want to post my ugly photos. But nay. Under the cameraman's lens, it's as if I've added 10 filters. Honey-colored skin. Beautifully defined muscles. Beautiful like a wild panther. Someone p posthumous photo. As a result, passers-by were stunned. Black and white photos can also look so good. Which young lady is this? Ah, Star or Netflix? Until Kevin came down. He liked and retweeted this little essay. The sphere of influence of the showbiz movie star is still quite wide. The water army that hacked me knocked down the Roadrunner disc. It was blacked and full of slurs. But an hour later, many Cindy fans' accounts were blocked. Even Shadow Emperor was forced to delete Cindy's video retweets. I received a call from an old-timer in the circle. She said congratulations to me for being listed as a candidate for academician. For so many years, I have been contributing day in and day out to plants and medicine, developing many anti-cancer drugs. Although the drugs are included in health insurance, there are still many ordinary people who cannot afford them. I set up my own pharmaceutical company to minimize the pricing. Sometimes even subsidize the RD. My brother gave me most of his shareholding. At my level, money is nothing more than a string of numbers that bounce around. It doesn't mean much to me. It's more meaningful to give it to you. The old-timer smiled comfortably and said, if you keep the country in your heart, the country will naturally keep you in its heart. I see, still guessing who my backstage really is. I stretched my back. My backstage. But my country. 17 a week later, the experimental seedling was saved and was able to successfully extract the anti-cancer substance. The lab cheered. The doorman suddenly said that someone wanted to see me. In the reception room, Kevin, whom I haven't seen for a long time, was sitting on the sofa, wearing a mask, shrinking, not even daring to glance at him. It seems that he has a big family, and he can actually find his way here. See me come. Kevin had a pleasing smile on his face. I'm sorry, Luna. I'm sorry for offending you before. It's all my fault. He spoke earnestly, to the effect that he'd been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, supposedly the one I was working on. Kevin was trying to shoehorn himself onto the list of patients for a clinical trial. He had the check for $80 million in his hand. He coughed. I can add more if it's not enough. There's no need. I twisted my head and was about to leave. I gave him a chance once, but he didn't want it. Chen Yin had probably never begged for anything in his life, and became irritated. Who do you think you are? When the time comes, I'll have someone come after you, and you won't even be able to start your own company. He tore his face. So he couldn't survive. So he dragged people down with him. I raised my eyebrows. Turning back to him, I asked, do you remember the little tomato in Cindy's hand? Kevin froze and nodded. That's the experimental seedling. Wasn't it trampled under your feet? He froze. His rosy face paled a little, as if he were a corpse that couldn't speak. Kevin's lips chattered. Liar. Cheat or not? Find out for yourself. I'll go first. I waved my hand, finally out of a bad breath. As for whether Kevin can survive until the drug is released, we'll see. 18 the day I was elected as an academician. The court was also in session. The defendants were Cindy and the original director. I used my academician's official account to specialize the two. The netizens exploded. Cindy comes out to admit her mistake. She'll be beaten if she stands upright. Wake up. The entertainment world has changed. The movie star's account was cancelled, and the popular Flo Flower was actually sued by an academician. Cindy's fans also maliciously speculated before whether I climbed into the big bed of a certain Goldmaster's father. I didn't realize that I was actually my own Goldmaster father. At this moment, quiet as silence. I can't wait to empty my Twitter account overnight. Cindy did not quite dare to believe it at first. She did not expect that the person she stepped on under her feet once turned into an existence that she did not dare to mess with. She recently had a water reversal, and several scripts that she had previously negotiated with suddenly canceled their contracts with her. The agent advised her to bear with it and get through it first. After all, there is still a Gu family Kyonjin persona. Max hadn't denied the rumor so far, and was still able to fool the passerby fans. She could only obediently lose money. Suddenly found airborne several hot searches. Max's sister is actually an academician. What window has the world closed on Luna? Cindy Variety Positive is out. The phone snapped to the ground and was picked up again rumbling. The tapped video shows her condescending instructing the crew to violently take the fence down. She casually walks around the forest, picking and tossing as she goes. A camera wouldn't have been able to capture any of this. But for some reason, even the words of her viciously cursing Luna were played out one by one. The view was dark. Not only had she offended Max, she had also offended an academician. The entertainment industry could no longer accommodate her. 19 After I finished with the two, I stopped by and put Max's name in the family in the profile section. The background of the tweet was a picture of our family playing at the beach. My brother is holding me and building a castle on the beach. And my dad is watching the sea with his arm around my mom. The salty sea breeze blew up Mom's soft black hair, and Dad helped her tie it up with a leather band. They smiled gently. It was as vivid as if it were yesterday. Now that I'm an academician, my brother's worries about safety are gone. He shut me down almost immediately, and sent an even bigger red envelope. Max's sister is actually an academician. Airborne hot search number 1. Brother's wish to show off his sister finally had a chance to come true. Every day when I open my eyes, I will definitely be able to see my hot search. The amount of attention and discussion is riding high on the entertainment page. My figure also gradually appeared on the social page. The anti-cancer drug that I developed out of my own pocket saved many people's lives because it was inexpensive and effective. Many people sent thank you messages under my account. The cell phone suddenly rang. After answering it, my brother's voice rang out along with the sound of the hood roaring. Sister, are you coming back for dinner today? The corners of my mouth lifted slightly. Thanks brother for cooking me something delicious. My brother smiled gently. How grown up. Still pampered. Pay attention to safety on the road.